control!
I'm gonna make him an offer again.
Stop trying to control everything and just let go.
To jeopardize.
In this series, we are going to be delving into something essential to movies: tone. What is tone? It can be described as the mood or feeling of a film. But how is it accomplished? Well, in short, everything in a movie affects tone. Every single aspect of what you see and hear, from the massive aspects like the structure of a film and scene, to large aspects like the emotions and movements of the characters, to the small aspects like the acting of the background extras, to micro aspects like what wear and tear is on an article of clothing. All these details elicit in a viewer an emotional reaction which usually stems from their own understanding of reality. That's why I refer to each aspect of a film as an emotional complex. Even if an aspect of an image or sound isn't that emotionally rousing, something still registers. Any artist can attest to how the simplest detail of a painting, or the addition of a single faint sound in a song, can change the overall feeling of a piece. Here's a good example of what emotional complexes are and how they work together. Take the opening scene of The Matrix. This is when one of the main characters, Trinity, is being cornered by the police. Let's start with what makes up a shot tonally in a film. The minor emotional complexes kind of go under the radar for most people because they don't make that big of a splash, or they create a micro-complex. That's the dirt and writing on the walls, the amount of oil in the main actor's hair, how rustic the chair she's sitting in, the room noise, and so on. What are these emotions stemming from these complexes? That varies from person to person. Emotions could come from appraisals of the people and environments to how they affect you personally. But one take is that the dirt on the walls could elicit a feeling about how seedy the place is. The excess oil in Trinity's hair could elicit feelings about her vanity and how seedy she is herself, to a general sense of isolation from the room noise. Other emotional complexes are more noticeable and create a slightly bigger emotional complex, also called a small complex. That's the color of clothes the actors are wearing, the choice of hairstyles, the amount of cops in the room, the sound and quality of the footsteps of the cops, etc. And then there are the glaringly obvious emotional complexes of a film that I refer to as large complexes. That's how the main actor is a woman and the cops are men. The fact that she is sitting in a chair, how the room is mostly dark with dim lighting, how the camera moves, the facial expressions of the actors, the words spoken by the actors, and so on. We pick up on these elements easier because when it comes to what place you're in, how well you can see, what gender someone is, how fast you're moving and what direction you're moving in, what people are saying, what activities someone is performing, and what facial expressions someone has, there are specific sections of the brain dedicated to figuring that out without much effort in order to function successfully in day-to-day life. All these complexes from the micro to the large can vary in importance and noticeability from person to person, but the general idea is that there is an emotional stratification to the details of a shot. The layers of complexes within a shot all added together is what I call a macro complex. When we switch to another shot, this is a macro complex followed by another macro complex. The two complexes, the one followed by the other, create another emotional complex. This time, instead of the complex coming from just the contents of a single shot, it is coming from the viewer's memory of the previous shot combined with the shot they are currently looking at. This is referred to as montage in film theory. There are different types of montage that each create a different effect for the audience, from composing conflict to enhancing emotion, but for the sake of this video, one shot plus another shot forms an emotional complex called a compositional complex. When the macro and compositional complexes are added together, they form a more intricate complex I call a mega complex. A mega complex is, once again, a product of a viewer's memory, which can be the contents of a single scene, or when you put two scenes together, or when you put all the scenes together and make an entire film. This model of tone also applies to any other form of visual art, from plays to paintings to even, perhaps, the way we look at our own reality. So, in this series, we will be examining the Matrix through the lens of these complexes from the macro to the mega, and looking at how they form a masterful tone, a dreamy, heady, trippy, and sobering look at humanity's plight. I might even describe the tone of the Matrix as the story of humanity. But how can a descriptor like the story of humanity possibly be interpreted into an emotionally complex work of art? Well, let's go deeper with episode 2 on how lighting